An underdog questions and expands what's considered possible. Our Edinburgh chapter chose this month's exploration, and Astrid Jaquel illustrated the theme, and MailChimp is the presenting sponsor. Wanda Abney is better known as Miss Wanda, the host of Full Circle, a weekly radio show and podcast dedicated to empowering Black women through conversation. Each week, she hosts lively dialogue, hoping to inspire women to achieve their desired vision for their lives. Wanda is a radio broadcast veteran who, as a young girl, dreamed of working in the music radio industry. And last year, she was recognized as an exceptional woman of color in the field of communications and public affairs by SAC Cultural Hub Media Foundation. Not just a radio host, she is a cancer survivor, a certified life coach, and an author. Please join me in welcoming to the screen Wanda Abney. And I'm going to stop sharing so she can take over.
Good morning. I am happy to be here. Happy Friday to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I am going to share my screen and we will get started. All right. So good morning. Thank you to Missy and the team at CreativeMornings Sacramento. I also have to give a special thank you. I'm not sure if she's on or not, but to Cache Jackson Henderson, my good friend that recommended me as a speaker to Creative Mornings. As Missy said, I'm Miss Wanda or Wanda Abney. Call me either. Just call me. But I am the host of Full Circle. It is a weekly radio show and a podcast that's dedicated to the empowerment of Black women. And I think that the conversation is important because Black women, for the most part, have been seen as underdogs. And I seek to have conversations that disrupt that narrative. So welcome to Underdog, the journey to becoming Miss Wanda. Now, when it comes to being an underdog, like I said, Black women are seen as underdogs in a lot of situations. For instance, there is a income gender wage gap where white women make about 79 cents to every dollar that a male makes. Black women tend to make about 62 cents to every dollar. So that makes us underdogs in, providing and earning income and providing for our families. In the media, we're also seen as underdogs. Lots of times we are hypersexualized. We're usually seen as prostitutes or strippers. We're also the loud, angry, sassy, smart mouth, Black sidekick. We're usually single and we're usually alone. We face, or sometimes we're even the downtrodden, uneducated, drug-addicted welfare mother. At work, we face microaggressions, and for some reason, people always want to touch our hair. So I guess by looking at what society or what the media, how the media portrays Black women, I guess I have been placed in a box where I could be considered an underdog, but I've really never felt like one. So the one question is, what is an underdog? And we kind of talked about that in our breakout session. Well, an underdog is someone that, their odds are stacked against them. They are somebody who is perceived to have little status in society, someone who has little chance of winning or succeeding. But I think the bigger question is who determines who the underdogs are? I mean, think about the times that you may have been labeled an underdog. How did you, as the underdog, perceive your own reality? Like, did you wear the label in shame? Did it just hold you back? Did you allow it to hinder you from reaching your dreams and goals? Or did you crush that label out the box? Did you use the label as fuel to feed whatever that fire was that was burning within? So that's something to think about. In our group, we were talking about everyone does love a good underdog story. They really are all around us. The family that's on the brink of losing the family home or the family business, only to find some type of fortitude to fight through those financial or health crises. Or the team of scrappy misfits that fight their way back to the championship game and end up winning it? Or what about the perceived nerd who was teased all throughout school only to come back to be the high school hottie, right? They, were the nerd and now they come back to school, to the reunion or to the big game, and the hair is down and they're just like this total hunk or this total hottie. So we do love a good underdog story. I do. I love a good underdog story. And when I thought about the theme, I thought about one of my favorite underdog stories of late. It is a story that I have to confess I'm slightly obsessed with. You may be obsessed with it too, I'm not sure. But the beginning of the story goes something like this. How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar? Sound familiar? Well, I cannot identify totally with the story of Alexander Hamilton. I'm not a white male. I wasn't born of immigrants. I'm not living in substandard conditions. I'm not fatherless. But there is something about the story based on the Broadway adaptation that resonates with my journey to becoming Miss Wanda. I discovered that I was an underdog along the way, but hadn't really thought about it. And there were 3 principles that aligned with the story of Hamilton that I found aligned with me. The first one was that there was a deep desire. He had a deep desire, a passion, and a calling. The next principle was that he faced perseverance in the face of a difficult situation. And lastly, he had an unshakable trust and belief in himself, and I had to have one in myself. So the first principle, the deep desire or calling or passion. I grew up in a house that was filled with music. Blues, jazz, R&B, gospel, they could all be heard wafting through our house like pancakes on a Saturday morning. But there was a place in my heart where music planted itself in my soul, like a year-round perennial, if you will. It took root in my soul, and I knew at a very young age that I wanted to work in the music industry. Like, I wanted it so bad. I used to cry myself to sleep at night. I used to pray. I used to journal. And I just used to ask God to please make a way for me to work in this industry and help me to make my dreams come true. But, sometimes life happens, and I allowed myself to get derailed. After high school, I moved to San Francisco. I got a job with the state, and by the time I was 22, I had my beautiful son, David. I moved back to Sacramento, and shortly after that, David's father was sentenced to 2 years in state prison for just something really stupid. So there I was a single mom working to feed my child. No time to pursue any dreams of my own. I was responsible for another life, and I took my role very seriously. I worked and I raised my son. Fast forward 6 years, 28 years old, that desire never left. The desire for music, and then what it kind of shaped itself to be radio. That desire to work in radio it felt like it was ignited even further. But my underdog quotient was high. I was a single mom. My child's father was in prison. I was living at home. I was very depressed. I was unhealthy, both emotionally and physically. And I was 28. I was old and compared to all of the other young people that wanted to be interns. So a friend of mine, she arranged a meeting there was a new station coming to town. And so a friend of mine arranged for a meeting with the promotions director. Again, I'm 28. All the other people that were applying for intern jobs were like 18, 19, 20. Some were just starting junior college, just graduating from high school. And here I am, this old person, but I had this opportunity in front of me. And so as I prepared for the meeting with the promotions director, all I could hear was saying to myself, I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, there may be somebody that is calling me mommy, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I didn't get a scholarship or go to college. I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I got some street knowledge. You can't take this radio dream from me. I'm gonna be a big name, just watch and see. And I'm not throwing away my shot. I'm not throwing away my shot. I couldn't throw away my shot. This was my opportunity. That deep desire and passion never left. I got the internship. It was unpaid, but who cared? I was in radio. So what about you? What is it that you have a deep passion for that continues to lie just under the surface of your heart? What are you doing? Are you doing it? Or are you allowing underdog thinking by either yourself or by outside influences to stop you? What are you willing to do to pursue that passion? And I think one of the most important questions is, can you live with yourself if you never pursue that thing? The second principle that aligns my life with Hamilton's is having perseverance in the face of a difficult situation. And side note, my entire network went down this morning. So talking about some perseverance, I was having a fit trying to persevere to get to you today. But I did. And that's been a theme of my life. I worked my way. I got the internship, and I worked my way up to assistant promotions director, and I was getting paid by this point. I moved on to a larger corporate radio entity that had a cluster of stations. I was back to being unpaid, though, because I went to a different station. I worked on the AM side, which AM radio, not as exciting, but it was still radio. I learned a lot there. But I was there for probably about a month or so when I got a phone call that totally derailed my radio dreams and placed the whole thing in jeopardy. It was my doctor calling to say that the lump in my throat was stage 2 thyroid cancer. My underdog quotient was peaking back up again. I'm a single mom. I have a broken relationship. I'm at a new station. I'm back to being unpaid. And now I have cancer. I was going to have my thyroid removed and have follow-up treatment. There were so many things that went through my head as I hung up the phone trying to absorb the news. The first thing, of course, I thought about was my son. And was he, at 9 years old, going to lose his mom to cancer? The other thing I thought about, don't tell anyone, but the other thing I thought about was radio. I was going to have surgery on my throat and possibly affect my voice, and all I could think about after my son, of course, was radio. And I was kind of angry that this thing that I had finally gotten to was going to be snatched away from me. But, I worked through all the issues and I quit my internship. But before I did, I had to have a little conversation with radio. We had to have a little one-to-one. So what about you? What have you faced in your deep desire that seemed like to be an insurmountable obstacle? What rituals or routines did you practice to combat underdog thinking? I don't know, man. I had that surgery. I had the thyroid removed. My body was pumped with radioactive chemicals. My voice was slightly affected. And all I kept thinking about was I had to get back to radio. I had to get back there. I had to do the thing that I always loved to do. I couldn't let underdog thinking spoil what was happening. So what about you in those cases? What are you willing to do? The third principle is I had to have an unshakable trust and belief in myself. So the first few months on the air was a disaster. I sucked. I went from being a promotions intern to being responsible for doing things on the air that I hadn't done before. My underdog quotient was at an all-time high because I was a nobody. I was an unknown. I was, old in the game, in my humble opinion. I had to be responsible for knowing things about the FCC rules, and I had to know about commercial logs, and I didn't even know how to do a proper break. And for those of you that may not know what that is the break between the music when the DJ talks. I didn't even know how to do that. I was stepping all over songs. It was just not good. But I had to continue to have this unshakable trust and belief in myself. And I did. So here I am, and I've got to go back because I missed a slide, and so I want to make sure that you see this slide. Like I said, I had this really, this talk with myself about what was the journey going to look like. I took some time off, and I had to compose myself, and I had to have yet another talk with radio. And so this time, I had a talk with radio, and I had to say that I'll be back. I had to say to myself, I'll be back. Like, no matter what happens, I might suck, I might be really bad, my confidence might be at an all-time low, but I'll be back. I had to continue to have that perseverance to say that I'll be back with radio. So I fought my way through all of the things that shook my confidence, not knowing what I was doing, having some really bad disasters on air, but I fought my way back to that. I crushed those underdog quotients in the dust. Sorry about that. So what about you? What tools will you employ when your underdog quotient is rising? Will you allow underdog thinking to determine your next move? Will the thought of mounting obstacles be a distraction, or will they be a contributing factor to your achievement? So those are the things I want you to think about. When people see you as an underdog, or even when you see yourself, because don't forget, we sometimes make ourselves the underdogs, even when the situation around us may not call for that because of our own lack of self-confidence. So think about when you have those moments, what tools will you use? Will you allow underdog thinking to determine your next move? Will it help propel you, or will it send you back into the abyss of negativity or sorrow or sadness or defeat? And will the thought of mounting obstacles be a distraction or a contributing factor for your achievement? Those are the things I had to think about. So fast forward to today. I've been in the game now for 15 years. I take my role as a facilitator of community conversation very seriously. And to be honest, there is no place I'd rather be than on the air on a Saturday morning. That is my element. And I'm very comfortable on air. Like it was said in my introduction, I've been recognized as a exceptional woman of color in the industry in the area of communications. And it was that unshakable trust, that unshakable belief in myself, that deep desire and that passion, that sheer perseverance to be part of an industry that I never thought I could be a part of. At times, I perceived myself as an underdog, and at times other people saw me as an underdog. But no matter what, through it all, through single motherhood, through lean financial times, through it all, I was determined to persevere. I was determined to make myself, or to get into an industry that I loved all of my life. And that is the road to being Miss Wanda. Now, for some reason, there was a song that I had in here that is not playing, but it's from Hamilton also, because if you know me, and a lot of you that are out there know me personally and know I'm totally obsessed with Hamilton. And so when I had the talk with radio, I have to share the song with you. even though the music may not be playing, I have to share the song with you because this is the song that I kept saying every time that I had a defeat in radio that made me feel like I had to give up on my dreams. It was the song that the King sang in the show, and he said, "I'll be back, soon you'll see. Oh dear radio, it's you and me. I'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I interned well. In my soul, there's a call. I'm not gonna let myself give up on it all. 'Cause when push comes to shove, I will fight my way back to you to remind you of my love." Da 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 da. Thank you. That's it. I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great job.
Appreciate it.
Great.
We love you in SoCal too.